Recording in progress.
We're on Daf Lamed Vav Lamed Aleph 3683 in the article with Sanhedrin Talmud Bavli. We're holding on the right column, the English side, Umar Rav. I think so. No, the bottom on the left side, Dini Nafashos. Okay, Dini Nafashot, the bottom left on 3683. Dini Nafashot Matchilim Min Atzad. We said when it comes to capital punishment cases, we would start the vote and the reasoning and everything from the judge on the side. What would that mean? Because the main judge sat in the middle of the bench. We're going to see that the bench sat in a semicircle. The main judge sat right in the middle. And the less experienced, the less important sat on the side. So when it comes to capital punishment cases, you wanted to start with the judge from the side. So from where do we know that we have to do this? How do we know we have to start from the side? Why can't we start in the middle with the most important judge? So Amar Krab Lo Ta'aneh al Riv. The pasuk says, "Do not respond to an argument," but the word Riv can be translated. It can be because there's no nikudot in the Torah, so it can be read Lo Ta'aneh al Rav. Do not answer your Rav, your master. That means once the main judge said his opinion and said his vote and said this is the way he thinks it is, it's not their cheretz, lo tanya al Rav. Don't answer back to the master. He's the master judge. So then we don't want to start with the master judge because then no one else will respond. You want to get everyone's true opinion, so you start with the least important. Rav Bar Rechana Amar Rabbi Yochanan Mehalcha. It says over here, Vayomer David la'anoshav chigru ish es harbo, vayachgiru ish et harbo, vayachkor gam David et harbo. So this incident, this psukim, as the note in 28 says, Naval was married to Malchus. He was insubordinate to David Melech. He deserved to be killed, but they had to bring him to a court case. So David Melech said, everyone make your decision. Every man gird your sword. And then afterwards it said David girded his sword, which Rashi understands that first everyone gave their opinion, and David Melech, being the king and the most prominent, gave his opinion last. Omar Rab. So that's where you get that's where you get the idea that the lesser important judge starts first. Omar Rab. A teacher can teach his student some halachot regarding the capital punishment case, and then he can make that student a judge to join the court case. That's Rab's statement. Shoyneh Adam, what Talmidah, person can teach his student, V'dan imay, v'dinin bashot, and he can judge with him a case of capital punishment. Gemara says, Meitvei, is this really true? We learned in the Braita. Hataharot v'hatumaot. When it comes to taharot v'tumot, when it comes to know something's tahar, something's tameh. Ha'al uvenoi harav v'talmidoi. Father and the son, and a Rebbe and his student. Moed and Lo Shinaim. You can count them as two separate individuals, and you can take their two opinions together as two votes. But dinim emanot when it comes to money, dinim nefashos when it comes to capital punishment, dinim akos when it comes to giving makot. Kiddush HaChodesh, making a new month, Eber Shana, adding a month to the year. Av ubenoi, herav v'talmidoi. If you have a father and a son, if you have a rabbi and his student, ein mor lehem ein le'echad. They only count as one vote. You don't count them as two votes. So how can you, Rav, tell me that a rabbi can teach a student and then judge with him a case of dinei nefashot? Here it says that if a student and a rabbi and a student together is counted as one vote. Now Rashi explains it here on the bottom. Rashi, about Lav and Vav of an Aleph. I'm assuming this is notes 30 and 31 in the art scope, but let's look inside Rashi. Rashi says, "Atumot v'torot shehoretan b'yachad. Ein behem Ein behem minyan elim kein cholke v'tzarich la'amod l'minyan im raboi hatzemein oyhem etzaharin. Moin nisav uvnoi. So Mishnayim. He says as well. Rashi says. Now, when it comes to Tumah Tahara, really all you need is one rabbi. You just go to the rabbi and you tell him this is. You ask him this is a he tells you. Now, if there's a machlek, it's different rabbis say different things. So now you can count the rabbi and his student as two votes. That's when you can do that. When it's a case where you only really need one rabbi to decide on. And then Rashi continues and says, but in cases where the Torah says you need to start off with three, now with one, but rather you need to start at least with three, even in the beginning of the din, even in the beginning of the court case. But din and the Pashas, especially din and the Pashas, Chav Gimel, where you need 23, and Chen Kiddush or Kodesh, and so for making Kiddush Levana, Tzar and Shlosh, you need 3. The Mishvat, it's written Mishvat, Kichot Yisrael, Mishvat, Yaakov, Umakrim Le, Bikiddush, HaChodesh, Mesechtas, Rosh Hashanah. He said, we learn Mesechtas Rosh Hashanah, the Kiddush HaChodesh, sanctifying a new moon. That's what we done in front of 3 judges. We already learned Daf Chav Hey. No, we already learned this. This doesn't say where. We already learned it here, though. I forgot which daf. I think it was Yitzhak or something. When you're adding on another year, another month to the year, Shitzar Shloisha. You need 3, then Chamisha, then 5, Shiva, then 7. Ein Ha'av V'noy Kesherin. Zem Zem. He says, then in that case, where the Torah requires you to have X amount of judges, then a rabbi and his Talmud are not going to be counted together, only counted as one. The Sefer the Braita, the end of the Braita that the Gemara quoted here, it says, what should they do if you can't count the father and the son as 2? They can't count the Rav and the Talmud as 2. Then what you want them to do? Lo yashav b'tzadei. I feel the They tell the guy, listen, since you can't be counted, don't stay here in the court case. Walk out and go out. So, Rav, you said you could teach your student and let him be a part of the court case. But here we have a right that refers says a Rav and a student cannot on Din and Pasha. More answers on Daf Lav and Vav Omen base. Kikam Rav, going Rav Kahana Rav Asi. The Gemara Rav who havu tzrichei, but the straight the Rav lo havu tzrichei. More there's a qualification. True, the writer says you cannot have a Rebbe and a student be counted as 2 votes on a capital punishment case, but that's only if where the student is dependent on the rabbi's logic, meaning the student has not yet developed his logic and analytical skills of Talmud and halacha so well. So when his Rebbe tells him the halacha, he has to listen to his Rebbe. He has to know why it is, and he doesn't have his own logic to figure out why the halacha is and how to apply it elsewhere. He goes what his Rebbe says. That's what he says. That's what he does. So in such a case where he's not able to use his own analytical skills, then he's counted as 1 vote. But if the Rebbe can tell him the halacha is like this, and now he's able with his own ability, with his own smart, to understand why the halacha is like this, and how it's applied in other cases, so then him and his Rebbe could be counted as 2 votes. Okay? Fine. Omar Rebbe Abo. I thought of the bottom of Spain, Dinim, Manas, Dinim, Bashais. There are 10 differences between Dinim, Mamanat, between monetary cases and capital punishment cases. Hold on. A Nohing Bishor HaNiskal. None of them are applicable by Shor HaNiskal, Chutz Mesar Shloisha, except for the 23. Okay, so the 10 differences between the capital punishment case and a monetary case. And we'll go through those 10 in a minute. They all come from our Mishnah. But the point here, Abba was on to say that when it comes to our Shor HaNiskal, so Shor HaNiskal, we had back also on Daf Bet. We had about a Shor HaNiskal. Daf Bet, Daf Gimel, somewhere over there we had it. We had a pasuk that says as follows. Look at note 3. The pasuk says, "Ashar Yisakel v'gam ba'alav yumat." So you probably remember this. So Ashar Yisakel v'gam ba'alav yumat. What does this mean? That if a ox killed somebody, you have to stone him. And then it says, and the master also is going to be killed. The owner is going to be killed. So he said, no, the owner can be killed. You can't kill the owner. The animal killed somebody. So no, what it means is, if you would be killing the owner, you would use 23 judges. And so too, when you kill the ox, you would also use 23 judges. So Ravo is telling us that's the extent of the comparison. Then you have to use 23 judges. None of the other stuff is applicable. We don't say, oh, you start the case during the day and you have to end it during the day, and you can't give the verdict for conviction on the same day. You have to wait for the next day, and if you have an opinion to acquit, you can't switch it to convict. All that stuff that our Mishnah said doesn't apply. The only thing that applies by short niskal, by an ox that killed somebody, is that you need to have 23. Now, when it says ox, it's lav dafka ox. It doesn't have to only be an ox that kills somebody. Any animal that killed somebody, even if it was a bird and killed somebody, you have to stone it to death. And the same what would apply. You would need 23. Now the Gemara wants to know, how do we know to limit this? Why are we not comparing it all the way to a person? It says, you kill the ox like you kill the person if you would kill the person. So why don't you do all the comparisons? The Amr Bar Papa, the Amr Krag, so the pasuk, Lo tatem mishpat evyonecha beribo. Right, this is the pasuk of Mishpatim. It says, do not pervert the judgment of the poor man. Who would think to pervert the judgment? We have many psukim that say tzedek tzedek. You have to be righteous in the judgment. You have to make sure everything right. So what does it mean? Don't pervert. So mishpat evyonecha iatam mateh. Aval atam mateh mishpat shor haniskal. The Gemara wants to say, it's coming to teach you special halacha. We said before that when it comes to convict a person for capital punishment case, you need to convict with a 2-person majority. It cannot be with the simple majority of 1. It has to be with at least 2. So in a case where you have 23 judges, it'll need to be at least 13 to 10, right? If it was 3, 13 to 10, because if you had 12, the other side would have 11. You only have one majority, so it wouldn't be enough. So in the case of 23 judges, you would need 13 to 10. You had 24 judges, right? So if you have 24 judges, you can have 13 to 11. That would be fun. If you had 2 more. You need a majority of 2. So when it says, it's telling you when it comes to a poor person, don't start to mess up with the majority, how much is needed. You need to have 2, but only by a poor person, right? People. When it comes to a shorhaniskal, then all you need is a simple majority. So when it comes to a shorhaniskal, all you need is a simple majority of the 23. So as long as you had 12 to 11, that would be enough to execute the animal that killed a person. Okay, now, Asara. Rabbi always said there were 10 differences between the monetary cases and between the capital punishment cases. So if you want to take a look at 10 differences, look at note number 7. The article does a good job bringing all the differences. So the first thing is you have to have 23 members versus 3, right? The trial opens the statement for acquittal. Majority of 2 is needed. The decision may not be reversed in the favor. Right, a favorable decision is not reversed. 5, the students cannot advance arguments for conviction. 6, a judge who initially argued for acquittal may not later argue for conviction. 7, decision must be handed down by the day. 8, decision for conviction must be delayed until the following day. The almost eminent judge may not begin deliberations, and not everyone is qualified to judge. Those are the 10 differences the Mishnah goes down. So, Asara, you said 10. Gemara says, Ha-tet havu, but there's only 9. Gemara says, 9. Ha-asara kitani, I counted it, and it says 10, like we just went through it. Gemara says, no. 2 of them are actually 1. The first one and the last one. The fact that they're not all kosher, and the fact that you need 23 is one of the same law. Why? Because when you need 23, it's a capital punishment case. That's why there are those that are not kosher. Meaning, there are those who are not kosher to judge capital punishment case, but they're kosher to judge monetary cases. The fact that it's a capital punishment case, now certain people cannot judge on that case. So it's the same din because you need 23. That's why certain people are not valid. So it's really 9 differences, not and not 10, if you think about it that way. So the Gemara said, I'll give you another difference. Sa'ika Achriti, I'll give you another difference. The Tanya, because we taught in the Braita, and Moshvin Sanhedrin. We don't sit on a Sanhedrin. Zaken, an old man, the Saris, someone who's not able to have children, right? Physically, he's not able to have children. Or Misha'en Lov Banim, or in someone who actually doesn't have children. The reason for all these people that they cannot sit as judges on a capital punishment case. Why is that? Zaken, look at Rashi. Shishachach var tzar gilubanim vein rachmani nechein soris. Rashi says because an old person already forgot what it means to have rahmanut. Because when you have children, you are forced to be merciful. There's no other way, right? When you're an old person, you already forgot what it means to have children. You already forgot to be merciful. Same thing, someone with the Saris that had kids, someone that actually doesn't have kids. These type of people, they're not very merciful because kids make you have mercy. There's no other way to raise them. So Yehuda says, Af achzori. So to any cruel person, and not sit on a Sanhedrin. So on a court of 23, you can't have cruel people or people without children, old people, because they're going to be cruel and they're not going to be full of mercy. So you don't put them on that. But the opposite is true when it comes to a mesit. Remember, a mesit was the instigator. It makes someone do avodah zarah, right? So when it comes to he caused someone to do avodah zarah, then we want to kill him. We don't want to keep him alive. We're not trying to find a way to keep him alive. In fact, we want to find ways to kill him. So when it comes to a mesit, then you could put the cruel people on so they can find a way to kill him. Don't have mercy on him and don't cover for him. Meaning, when it comes to a mesit, you have to find a way to kill him. So it's good to put some cruel people on the bed then for that case, because then you'll be guaranteed that they'll find a way to execute him. Okay, the Gemara continues. Hakol kesher ladun dinei mamonot. Everybody is kosher to judge cases of mamon. Where it says hakol, the fact that it says hakol, it's coming to include someone. Who are we including? Amar Yehuda la tuye mamzer. Coming to include a mamzer. Okay, so who is a mamzer? So let's define mamzer. A lot of people use it, not really sure what it means. Okay, it's a child that's born of a union of a man and a woman who would have karet, chayav karet when they were together. Okay, so the simplest of all cases would be a man and a married woman, right? You're not allowed to be with a married woman, and it's chayav karet if you're with a married woman. So that child that's born from that union of a man and a married woman is considered a mamzer. Okay, what is another case? What are other cases of mamzerim? Incestuous relations, right, between relatives who are not supposed to get married to each other. Those children are mamzerim because it's also chayev karet, and there will be mamzerim. Now there is one category of chayev karet if you're with the lady, and yet the children are not mamzerim. This is the person's own wife if she was a nida, so you're not allowed to be with a nida. But if a person was with the nida and she somehow had a child through that union, then that child is not considered a mamzer. Okay, it's only a mamzer if it's not his wife and it's a chayav karet, and then it would be considered a mamzer. So for example, in the English world, when they use this word mamzer, they use it to say someone born out of wedlock. But if the woman was a single girl, right, and she's not married and she's not with anyone, and she had a child with somebody, that child is not a mamzer halachically because there is no, as long as even if she wasn't needed. But what's it called? She's not. She wasn't. It's not like this. It's not a case of incestuous or married woman. No, the law does not allow for abortion if the child is a mamzer. No, it does not. Not to my knowledge, it does not allow to that. That's not an excuse for mamzer. He's a mamzer. He's a mamzer. He's a mamzer, and he can marry another mamzeret, and they can have children, and he can marry a ger. And there's a ways to get out of mamzers. Enough ger, marrying enough ger, you can get out of it eventually. But no, there's no such thing. Okay, so it comes abortions, rape cases, and you have to take this to big time. Will deal with these things. The only real exception to abortion, in my knowledge, and I'm not dealing with these things very much, but from my limited halachic knowledge on abortion, there's a lot of questions on this. Is if it's a risk on the mother. Okay, if the mother is in a very risky pregnancy and carrying that child might cause her to die, so then there's the only thing is like, why is your life more important than my life, type of thing, and then the Chacham maybe give some sort of, but other than that, other than a life and death scenario, there's no real factor for them. Okay, so it comes to include a mamzer. Now we know what a mamzer is. We can say it comes to include a mamzer. When you come into dine mamanot, a mamzer can sit on the court of Rabbi Yehuda like to a mamzer. So where it says, why are you teaching me this from this Mishnah? I already learned from another Mishnah that a mamzer can be included on the court. Everyone can judge. This was a Mishnah in Nida. Anyone who could judge a capital punishment case can judge a monetary case. So there are those who can judge a monetary case, but they cannot judge a capital punishment case. But we asked, what is it coming to include? Who says it's coming to include a mamzer, but a mamzer can judge a monetary case, but he cannot judge a capital punishment case. So now you have two Mishnayot, our Mishnah and Sanhedrin, our Mishnah and Nida, that are both saying it's coming to include a mamzer. So it cannot be. More answer is no, not both of them to include mamzer. Rather, ger. One is coming to include a ger, but mamzer. One's coming to include a mamzer. One's coming to include a ger that a ger can judge capital punishment case, and one is coming to include a mamzer that a mamzer can be judging a capital punishment case. Now, can a ger actually judge monetary cases? It's something like Rashi seems to be saying yes, you can judge all monetary cases. Tosfot and others want to say that a ger can only judge monetary cases with other gerim involved, cases with other gerim involved. That's a ger and another ger, and the ger can judge them. Other than that, Tarsha says no. Rashi says yeah, he can do it all the time. That's not the our point of the sukkah. Just wanted to bring that out. So now the Gemara says, you need to tell me both. You need one mission to tell me to include gerim that can sit on monetary cases. You need the other mission to teach me that you can add mamzerim to the monetary case. So tzricha, why? Because if I only told you ger, I would say, you know what, why a ger can sit on a bed in the royal levoy b'kal, because a ger is allowed to marry a Jew or a Jewess, right? Gerim are allowed to marry Jews. But a mamzer is not allowed to marry a Jew, a fit Jew. He has to marry another mamzeret, right? A mamzer cannot marry outside. He has to marry either another mamzer. He can marry a ger, but he can't marry a regular Jew. Maybe that's why he can't. What's it called? Sit on the beit din. Amaloi. There we know. You know why mamzer is included but not a ger? The truth is, he came from a kosher seed. He does come from proper kosher parents. I mean, they did a sin of chayev karet and they had a child, but at the end of the day, they were both Jewish parents to him. But a ger didn't come from a kosher parents. He didn't come from a tzip chair. He came from goyim. Maybe he can't sit on the beit. And therefore, you need both to teach me that you can include a ger on the beit din, and you can include a mamzer on the beit din for dine mamanot, for monetary cases. Then where it says, "Ein hakol kasherin ledun the din nefashot," right from the Mishnah. Not everyone is kosher to judge cases of capital punishment. What's the reason why, when it comes to capital punishment, we cannot have a mamzer or a ger or anybody who has any sort of blemish, genealogical blemish, family line, family tree blemish cannot sit on that beit din. My time is same way. The court has to be righteous in its din, make sure it judges correctly. It has to be free of any type of family blemish. Amar and Neymar, my kra. What's the pasuk? So the pasuk is Kulach yafa rayati omu ba'ein bach. Right, Shir Hashirim. Pasuk says you are entirely beautiful without any mum. Mara says, well, why am I thinking that means a blemish in my family tree? Dilma mum mamish. Maybe it means that he can't actually have a physical blemish. Maybe it's saying we shouldn't have a chopped up arm guy sitting on the bed. How do I know? It means, how do I know it means they can't have a family blemish? Amar Rav Bar Yaakov. I see the hand. Just give me a minute to go through the Gemara and then I'll take it. Amar Rav Bar Yaakov. Omakra. Pasuk says, when it says by Moshe Rabbeinu, when they were collecting the 70s that came to be with Moshe Rabbeinu, and it says, let them stand there with you. So when they were getting the 70s of Canaan, compared to the Sanhedrin, right? It said they should stand there with Moshe. That Moshe Rabbeinu, he's Ish Kadosh, Ish Tahar, right? Kadosh Mepriya Betin. He was Kadosh ready from the womb. He came from what a beautiful family. And it says imach with Moshe v'diyamun lach. You have to be like Moshe, just like Moshe is from a non-blemished family. So to the judges who sit in Sanhedrin, who are sitting with Moshe on Sanhedrin, have to be from an unblemished family. Gemara says, why are you saying that? Maybe you know why those 70s of Canaan have to be unblemished family, because they were getting Shechina, right? The pasuk says, Hashem said, I'm going to spread my Shechina from you, Moshe, I'm going to give it to them, right? He's going to share it with them. So because they had to have Shechina, therefore they needed to have an unblemished family. So you have to go back to Parshat Yitro. Amakra, Yitro was advising Moshe, and the pasuk said that he said, they should carry the Jewish people with you. Right? They should bear with you the burden of carrying the Jewish people. And it says, like you, Moshe, with you, right? That they should be similar to you. Now, in Yitro's time, there was no Shekhinah coming down to speak to them or give them any ruach. It was just Stam being judges. And therefore, it says with you, that's to be like Moshe. So when it comes to capital punishment cases, the judges need to be on such a level like Moshe Rabbeinu, a unblemished family. Okay, so I saw Ephraim had a hand up. So Ephraim, if you had a question.
Hi. What are the two groups of people that have a blemish on them?
For now, the two that we learned were Mamzer and Gerim.
The mom?
Yeah.
Yeah, so Mamzer, I totally understand. The Ben Gerim, once he becomes a Ger, doesn't he get a Jewish soul? Doesn't he become like a new person, and automatically he is without a blemish from that point on?
It has to come from a Jewish family. It has to be Kohen, Levi, or Yisrael, whose daughters can marry Kohanim. That's the criteria to sit on a capital punishment case. It has to come from a Kohen, Levi, or Yisrael family. It cannot be from Gerim. It cannot be Mamzer. Whether the Ger soul not blemish is great, but halachically doesn't fit the criteria.
Okay, and it's only the first generation. His kids will automatically be Jewish from that point on. So they will be okay.
Your question now is the question of Old Mefarshim. We learned Shemaiah Avtalion were on the Sanhedrin. Shemaiah Avtalion were Gerim, right? So how do they end up being on the Sanhedrin?
Correct.
Right. So the simple answer there is like what you're saying, that they were already a couple of generations down. They weren't actually Gerim, but their grandparents, something like that. So now they were kosher families already. That's the simple answer to give. Others want to say that Gerim can't sit in a Sanhedrin when there's enough Jews to be there. But if there's no qualifying Jews, meaning there's no Chachamim or Dayanim from pure lineage, then you by default have no choice but to put a ger there. That's another. That's some meparish. I don't know if the Paiskim agreed to that, but that is a meparish. That is one of the commentaries I saw.
Right. I forgot about Shammai and Rav Talmud, but I was focusing more on Rabbi Akiva because he was also.
Yeah, but where do we have? He was sitting on a Sanhedrin. We don't have no.
Right, but that's just because he wasn't sitting doesn't mean that he didn't have the right.
No, he wouldn't have a right. There were enough chachamim without him to sit on a Sanhedrin. He couldn't sit on a Sanhedrin. The question, by
Say
the
it
way,
again?
Rabbi himself wasn't a ger. He was a ben ger. His father was a ger.
Correct.
Right.
Yes, I agree.
So that might already
Yeah.
play out differently. That might play out differently. Married a Jewess, right? And the child's Jewishness comes through the mother, and it's already a Jew. And Rabbi Akiva is already a Jew. His father was a ger. Right.
That's why. And
Okay, Solomon, what do you want to say?
Note 17 says the requirement that the mother, as long as the mother is a Jew, the child automatically qualifies to be a judge.
I'm not sure. I don't know if that's the law, but
Okay. But note 17 says that it was mentioned in the Gemara Yevamot. The requirement.
Yeah, what did it say? No 17.
Yeah, second paragraph.
Gemara literally comment. So the problem is Gemara Yevamas that requires the judge's mother to be Jewish. Right. Right.
So if mother is Jewish, there's automatically there is no ger involved in Rabbi Akiva's case.
Right, because the child is Jewish, mother's Jewish, child is Jewish.
So now, after Leon and all of them, so it depends. They ger themselves or they're the children of ger.
Who? Shemai Baptalion.
Yes.
Right. So that's most commentaries say that they were children of ger.
Most likely.
Right. So if their fathers were ger and they married Jewesses, then their children are completely Jewish. Just they're no shaykhs to ger.
Exactly.
Right. Right. And that's how a mamzer from mamzer would marry a gioret, right? Mamzer would marry a gioret, and the child is a Jew, right? Because the gioret now is a Jew, and then the child is a Jew, and the father's status in a mamzer wouldn't stick, right? Is that correct? I think that's the way you kasher up mamzerim, when they marry giorets. Anyway,
say it again. So the mamzer.
There's a way to kasher up mamzerim. I think that's the way. I'm not 100% sure. It's not the sugi here for it, but if a mamzer marries a gioret, his mom's not allowed to marry a Jewess, but a mom's allowed to marry a gioret.
Right.
Right, and a gioret is a Jew now, so just Jewish now. So if she has a child, the child is a Jew. The father's status as a mamzer doesn't fall on the child.
So a male mamzer could be fixed, but not a female one.
Wait, Avram, what did you say?
Right?
Yeah, I think I learned the same way. That's correct.
Right, you learned that way also. Right. So a female mamzer is going to be more difficult, right? Because she remains a mamzeret. Her child will remain a mamzer too, because she's under that lineage, right? It passes through her. So you would have to wait to get a male line and then change it over. I don't know. I have to figure that out. I don't deal with these things, Baruch Shammai.
Once in a while, Hashem erases them, from the world.
I hear you.
You know how it's done.
Right. Okay, let's move on to the next Mishnah. The next Mishnah. Okay, this is interesting. This is now going to tell you the setup. Sanhedrin The Sanhedrin sat in a semicircle. So imagine the letter C. That's the way the Sanhedrin sat. Why they sit that way? And this is the way everyone can see each other, and they can see the witnesses who come, and the plaintiff and the defendant. Everyone who comes, it can be seen by them. And this way, they sat in a semicircle. This is true of both the Sanhedrin Gedolah and the Sanhedrin Ketana, right? The 71 judges in the Lishkat HaGazit, the chamber of hewn stone, in the Mikdash, as well as the smaller courts of 23 throughout Israel. Now, what else was there? There were two scribes that were standing in front of them. And one would, according to the Rambam, one would write the reasons to why the judges said someone is guilty, and the other one would write the reasons why someone was innocent. That's the way the Rambam learns. Rabbi Yehuda says no. There were shloisha. There were three. And one wrote divrei mechayev and wrote the reasons for guilt. And one wrote the reasons for innocence. And then what? Then the third one would write both. The third one would write both of them. This way, if anyone had an error what they wrote, they would look to the third one and he would explain it to them. Well, Allah the Rambam said there was only two. Okay, so if you're making a bet in today in the Sanhedrin, the Rambam would say you only need two. Okay, so now this is only by Sanhedrin Kitana, a Sanhedrin of 23 judges, not a Sanhedrin Gedolah. This is the small ones in every city. When they had the 23 judges, the 23 judges sat on a bench or chairs or whatever it was they were sitting, and under them, right? So here was the judges, and in front of them, there were three more rows of 23. Each row had 23 students. 23 students of Dayanim, right? Students of judges who they're not judges yet, but they're judges in training, right? JITs, judges in training. They're learning to be judges, and they sit over there. How do they sit? Everyone would sit according to his station, meaning whichever is the most senior Talmud, the most smartest Talmud would sit in the beginning of the row, and as it goes on, was be the lesser. And the same thing on the next row. It starts off with the most, and then it goes lesser. So each one sat according to their status, years and chachma, and that. Now, why were they there? Okay. The reason why they were there is because if for whatever reason the 23 court was not able to come to a decision, they're not able to come to a decision, they need to add more judges to the case. They can add up to 71. And where do they add from? They add from these students. So the question then is, why do I need so many students? You're talking 23 times 3 is 69 students. I don't need so much students. Give me two rows. That will give me how much? 46 plus the 23 judges. I'll have 69. And in the third row, put only 3, right? And I'll get to 71 that way. So the Parashim will explain that we didn't want to do that. Okay, we want to have the Beit Din looking uniform, and you can say, "Oh, why don't you make it 24 each row, and that would be enough?" We don't want to do that either because you don't want to have more students in a row than judges. So you can't get more than 23, and you don't want to have one row with just 2 or 3 people there. So therefore, they would have 23 in 3 rows. So you had 23 judges plus 69 students sitting there. Now, let's say they had to give smicha to one of these judges to make him, one of these students to make him a judge. What happened? Rashi explains that one of the judges died, and they have to put someone in his place. So somchin bin harishonah. You go to the first row and you take the most prominent of students and you give him smicha. Now, echad min hashniya boilo l'rishona. The guy from the second row, one of the students in the second row has to come up to the first row. You can't leave one of the seats in the first row empty. One from the third row has to go to the second row. And then you take someone from the yeshiva who's not sitting on the court yet, and you go and you put him onto the third row. So everyone moves up a row. Now, how did they move up? And he doesn't go and sit in the place of the first person. Meaning, the person who gets smicha becomes a judge doesn't go and take over the seat of the judge who died, but rather everybody of the judges moves over because they become the more prominent one, and the student goes to the least prominent seat. And the same thing happens with the students as they move up. All they move up in the station, and they all go to the new station, and not just to the next row, but rather they move up seat by seat. That's like a lot of musical chairs going on. Everyone sits according to the place that is royal. That's appropriate to them. Okay, there's in Judaism there's a lot of everything goes based on qualification. We don't just say oh, we feel bad for you, so move up here. Oh, you take this guy's spot over here. No, you have to have earned it. You have to have certain qualifications to sit where you're sitting, because that shows a certain amount of power and respect. So that's the way they moved it. Now, the Gemara's question is, How do we know that they have to sit in a semicircle? How do we know this? Amar Rav Acha Bar Chanina, the Amar Kra. Okay, so we're coming back to Sukkim and Shir Shirim. Interesting, this stuff has a lot of Shir Shirim on it. It says in Shir Shirim, Shorarach Aganasar Al Yachsar Hamazeg, right? Your belly button is moon shaped. Let not the strength of the blend diminish. Now, I'm going to have to explain this passage. Shorarech, your navel, which refers to a person's belly button. Zu Sanhedrin. This is considered the Sanhedrin. Lama Nikra Shema Shorarech. Why is it called belly button? She Yoshevet B'Tiborosha Olam. Because it's sitting in the center of the world. Just like a person's belly button is the center of his body. In fact, that the belly button is where he became a person in the first place, where the umbilical cord and everything. So it's the center of the world. Therefore, the Sanhedrin, even it's an Eretz Yisrael, that is the center of the universe. Agan, this is Shorach Agan, that it is Agan, it's a Magin, it's a protector. The Sanhedrin, through its halachot and teaching us how to behave, is a protector for the whole world. Then it says, Shorach Agan Hasahar. What Hasahar? He domen la Sahar. It is moon-shaped. Okay, the word Sahar is Aramaic for moon. And the moon shape, when someone thinks moon shape, what do you think? Thinking a whole moon? Most people don't think of a whole moon. They think of a half a moon. Why? Because most of the month, the moon is actually half a moon, right? It's only a few days, it's full. As the beginning, it's more of a crescent, more of a half a moon, and then towards the end, it's more of a half a moon. So therefore, when it says moon shaped, it means a half a moon, which is a semicircle. Then it says, Al Yichzar HaMazig, don't diminish the blend, right? Mazig, we know, like in Psachim it says, Mazguloi Kais Rishon, they pour in the first cup. What does this mean? In the olden days, they didn't have wine that comes in a wine bottle. They had wine, which was a concentrate, right? You didn't just drink it straight up. You took it out and you put for every amount of wine, you added 2 equal parts of water. So 2/3 of the cup would be water, and 1/3 would be the wine. Otherwise, if it wasn't diluted, it would be too strong. So it says here, don't make less than the mix, which means is don't leave less than 1/3, at least the wine you need to have there. What does this mean? Let's say, so if you have a Sanhedrin Gedolah that needs to have 71, right? Sanhedrin Gedolah in which Gazit is 71 judges. Let's say a person has to leave, can't stay, has to go home, do something, whatever it is. But he has to look. If there are 23 of them, 23 judges still there, then he can leave. Right? Imagine if that's a minion and you needed to wait for 23 people. Right. So as long as there's 23 judges there, he can walk out because 23 is 1/3, right, of 71. Don't look at 71, look at 69. Make it equal. The 23, 23, 23 is 69. So if you have 1/3 left, and that's considered Sanhedrin Katana, and they're there, then you can leave. Imlav, anyway, said the judge cannot walk out. He would have to stay. The pasuk continues. Your stomach is like a heap of wheat. Just like wheat, everyone enjoys from it. So too, Sanhedrin, everyone enjoys from it. It gives peace in the world. Sugaba Shoshanim. Then it says Sugaba Shoshanim. It's talking about Klal Yisrael. That even the Sanhedrin gave us a ramka. They gave us a border, and the border is made out of Shoshanim, out of roses. Meaning they didn't give it very strict. They just said it nicely. Even all Klal Yisrael would listen. Jewish people did not break through the border, even if the border is made out of roses. Behind the example is this: is one Apikari said to Rav Kahana. He said, "Amartu nida gavra." You say that a husband is allowed to be yichud with his wife who's a nida. But how could you say that? Could it be that he has a fire and she's there and he's not going to have his way with her? That, you're letting him be alone with her and he has a desire. So how could it be? You guys you're not right. You shouldn't make it Isser Yichud. You're not allowed to be alone with your wife when she's in Nida. Amalek Kahana said to him, listen, the Torah Yida Alenu, the Torah already said about us. Suga b'shoshanim. All we need is a hedge with roses, the border made out of roses. Shafil shoshanim, lo yibratzu behem beratzot. Jewish people did not breach through a hedge of roses. When the Sanhedrin tells us you can't be with your neither wife, we're not with it. The Rishonim deal with this. Why is it? Taisha deals with it. Taisha says, well, why is this? Any other woman who's a chayav karet, if you're with your wife when she's a nida, you're chayav karet. Any other chayav karet woman, we say it's you're not allowed to be alone with her. So why is this allowed? So the Parashah explain simply, trying to explain that since he knows there's going to be a time that's going to be mutter to be with her again, Sahara is not so strong to make him do such amirot. He can say, you know what, I just need to wait a little bit, whatever it is, and eventually I'll be with her again. That's if it's his wife. But when it comes to a strange woman, on the other hand, is never going to be mutter to him. So the Sahara says, listen, I'm not waiting around. And there's no way to make this mutter. I'm going to have my way with her now. Therefore, there is a Isra Yom. Now, what about a chupat nida? Okay, chupat nida. This is when they're getting married and the bride is a nida. So that means the husband's not allowed to be with the bride. Now, you're allowed to make a chuppah if the woman is the kala, the kilin is a nida. You're allowed to make a chuppah. It's called chupat nida. However, they're not allowed to be together afterwards. And since they were never together before, Chacham say the Yetzer Hara is very strong, and therefore they're not allowed to be alone. They cannot go home alone and say, okay, we're not going to do anything. No, that's not possible. Rather, they have to have someone around in the house with them in order for them not to get into this. And they're not allowed to be yichud. It's Isser Yichud to be with them. At that point, so you do have a case of Isser Yichud by a husband and wife. If the wife was a nida when they made the chuppah and they weren't allowed to be together on their wedding night, they would need to keep the laws of yichud, and they would have to have someone around who would make sure that they would not sin.
And it must be until full process.
Yeah, until they were actually together. Yeah.
There's got to be a person.
Is there a minimal?
Say again?
A person must be there for at least 7 to 14 days then at that time.
Not necessarily. Sometimes chuppah nida is in the middle of her cycle. It's almost at the end of the cycle. So whatever it is.
Okay.
Whatever it is. However it is. I mean, usually it's not. No one's planning the wedding for the start of the cycle. So today, nowadays, what they do is they that's why it's very important that they have a rebbitzin already before they set the date. This way they can, calculate it correctly. And even that they don't really rely on anymore, the calculations. What a lot of these rebbitzins do, they give their girls certain pills to take a week or 2 weeks before their wedding to kind of like postpone their cycle. This way it won't fall on their wedding night.
Right. Is there an age to the third person that has to be with them?
Offhand, I don't know, but it would have to be someone that I would assume someone that knows what's going on. Yeah, it has to be a child that they would be embarrassed in front of. That's the pashut, right? You need to have a child, at least a child who they would be embarrassed to do anything. Because if you take a newborn baby or 6 month or 1 year old and put them to sleep and you go to your room, what's the child going to know? Got to be like a 9-year-old or something like that. Someone who's going to make what's going on in there, something like that. Something to make them very awkward. This way they won't come to that. It might not be. You might need to keep a parent there. I don't know. I don't know the exact the guidelines of the halacha, but that is the halacha. I mean, if that came up, someone did a chuppah nida, they would need to talk to the rab to figure out how they would do it and how long they would need to have it or whatever it does. Okay. All right.
Okay. And the topic earlier, when one of the judges dies in between the case. So what happens? Does the new guy does he just go directly to sit on that chair, or they still kind of
all the
go up?
judges move over and he goes to the least prominent seat.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay. Continues. The Gemara. The Reish Lakish Amar Mehacha. Rish Lakish would say, you want to know how Jews are so good, they're always listening? Even those empty ones, even the Amaratzim who don't have much mitzvahs or don't have much Torah, they still have mitzvot like Rimon. They are full with mitzvot. The truth is, sometimes you'll find people who don't have a lot of Torah, and yet they're still doing mitzvot by the Jews. It says Yitzchak smelled the clothing, but don't read it as clothing, but rather as the bogedav, the traitors, the renegades, the people are going against. Even they have mitzvot that is considered very special by Kadosh Baruch Hu. So you see, Sugav Shoshanim, Re'ah Begadav, there's a certain specialty that Jews have. They listen to their Talmid Chachamim. They follow the law most of the time. And obviously, we're talking here about Jews of pure lineage. You know, if Chas Shalom, certain Jews have some bad lineage in them, and then it's not a chiddush that they're going against the Chachamim, they're going against the Torah. You know, we're talking about people who don't have mitzvah, don't have Torah, but they come from pure lineage, meaning their parents are Jewish, really Jewish, not fake Jewish and stuff like that. Then you know that they will listen to the Chachamim, even if they don't have Torah, they're still considered full of mitzvah. And here's an example. There were certain gangsters that lived in Reb Zera's neighborhood. And Reb Zera became friends with them. He was trying to make them do tshuva, but it wasn't working. They were just staying to be gangsters. You know, maybe they became friends with the rabbi, but that was about it. The rabbis were upset with Reb Zera. How can you become friends with them? They're not doing tshuva, wasting your time. When Reb Zera passed away, the gangsters got together and they said, you know, until today, Reb Zera was alive, he would pray for us. He would make sure we were okay. You know, he prayed for our good being. Right now, who's going to care for us? Who's going to talk to Hashem for us? We've got nobody. So they decided, you know what? We got to take matters in our own hands. And they made tshuva and they came back to HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Even though during Reb Zera's life, he didn't sin in making tshuva, Reb Zera was right. The Chachamim were wrong. Reb Zera was right. Befriend these gangsters, these Jewish gangsters who come from pure lineage. They have the ability to return and repent. They just need to be, right, turned back on. Right? They have to be somehow brought close to turn back on. We know famously, I've said it many times, I heard it from Rabbi Mansour once, Rasha, right? The word Rasha, the evil person, right? It's acronym that spells what? Ribono shel olam. And the truth is, all the Rasha needs is somehow to be encountered again with Hashem, and he'll be brought back into the fold. Just to finish up the Gemara to the Mishnah, Shalosh Shurot, Amar Abaye, Shema Mina. You learn from this, Kinadeh Kulonadeh. When one of them moves, everyone moves. Everyone moves to a new position. Even the judge, even the students, everybody moves according to their stature, according to their status. Gemara says, "B'leima lehu." So let the one that's going to move from the second student row to the first row, now he's going to be at the end. Let him say, "Adhitna havi tribedesha." Until now, I was sitting at the head of the row, right? I was the first student in the row. Hashtam what'vilu b'danvei. But now they're placing me at the end. That's not fair. I'd rather be in the beginning, even if it's in the second row. You tell them from Masechta Avot. You tell them from Pirkei Avot. You should be a tail to lions. Don't be a head to foxes. Right? Very important. People think, I'll do better. You know, imagine this. I was never in public school, but I was told that in public school you have like the dumb class, you know, you have like the class for special ed, right? So imagine there's this boy who's struggling in the regular class. And he says, put me in the special ed class. There I'm going to do great, right? Shkoya, you're going to do great there, but what's the point? You know, you have to use your brain for a higher status. You rather be a tail to a lion than be a head to a fox. And I heard from a Waxman Shlita this week, he said, especially about a lion, whenever a lion is up and awake, where does he position his tail? Right? His tail is always positioned up. Whereas a fox, most of the time when he's walking with his head, He's always putting his head down in between his legs. That's the big difference. So even you could be a tail, but a tail is way up, right? And that's the way you're supposed to treat people also. But the Ramban says you should treat everybody greater than you. How could everybody be greater than you? Okay, so you say they're the tail, but they're the tail of a lion. A lion is always up, even the tail is always up. Therefore, a person has to realize that about himself and about others, that it's better to be as anal arayot, better to be a tail to a lion, be up there, even though you're at the end. But don't be a head to foxes. There's no point to that. That's you better be the end of a better group than the head of a lesser group. Okay, and with this, we will end today's here. Okay. Any questions?
No.
One question.
Sure, go ahead.